Welcome to the Mike and Alison After Hours podcast with your hosts, mshelah and Alison Haas, talking business with real business owners in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today's episode is sponsored by Advantage Industries. When you need business technology, get Advantage Industries to protect and promote your business. To learn more, go to www.getadvantage.com and schedule your first meeting to see if you qualify for a free network scan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. I am your host, mshelah, and with me is my always awesome and always on point co-host, Alison Haas. Alison, how the heck are you today?
I got 2 Starbucks, 1 for free, so I am freaking great. Good morning.
Happiness is a free Starbucks, isn't it? Can we distill the world down to that today?
Come on. Yeah.
And for those of you that are watching the show and not listening, you'll notice we already have our guest in the house. He is with us already. I'm doing a quick little lead in. This is Mr. Andrew Freedman, and he is one of the managing partners for Shift. And I will read you just a quick little descriptor of Shift. Shift Consulting is a management consulting firm on a mission. They take a crystal clear, data-driven approach to workplace excellence by fusing culture, leadership, and strategy. They help organizations achieve the remarkable. Our work establishes long-term, profitable, scalable business growth while sending employees home happier, healthier, and more fulfilled. So that is the nuts and bolts on Andrew as a managing partner. But we have some extra fun today. Our audience knows that this is about business leaders learning from other business leaders. And Andrew is certainly that as the managing partner at Shift. But if you've listened to any of our shows, you know that Alison and I are both book nerds. Alison is a published author, and we always ask our guests about what book they're reading right now. So we're going to flip the script a little bit today because Andrew has a brand new book coming out. So when this show is published, it'll be the first or second week of January, and Andrew's book is going to hit just before the end of January in 2021. So Andrew Freedman, welcome to Mike and Alison After Hours. Great to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm a little nervous only because Alison has 2 Starbucks going. 1 Starbucks, I think I'd be like, I'm good, but we'll see where this goes. But I'm excited for the conversation. Thanks
Full
for having me.
disclosure, only 1 is being drank, but I received 2. So thank you. I would have been nervous too.
Yes. So normally, Andrew, we have 2 segments to the show. We have who, what, where, when, why, how, where we want to manage and promote you as a company. And then the second half is about leadership, and it still will be. But I'm going to let Alison do the second half as author to talk about your new book, because I am just stupid crazy excited to hear about it. I tell our audience every week, I am a book nerd. I read prolifically. I just shipped a bunch of books to Alison because we got on the topic of what are some books to read over winter break. I have a library of about 500 books, and I've read roughly 2/3 of them. So I've got about 150 on deck. So Andrew, great. Let's start with who, what, where, when, why, how. Tell us, who is Andrew Freedman?
The way that I always love to answer this question is by using a connection to my favorite animal, which is dogs. And I describe myself as a mutt, self-proclaimed mutt. And I'm a mutt in this way. You know, I was raised. My mom was an elementary school teacher for 35 years. My dad was a high-level sales executive and sales leader. And so I've got this interesting blend of this insatiable desire to learn, to teach, to help others accomplish more than they could before they met me. And at the same time, I love growing businesses. And so I've got this interesting intersection from a work standpoint that has always fueled me to help others be better. And then on the home side, you know, I'm married. We've got 2 4-legged furry kids. We've been rescuing dogs, my wife Joanne and I, for over 20 years. So I'm a bit of a homebody, eater, and traveler, while I also fight the crime of growing businesses by day. It's a little bit about me.
So I'll give you just a little synergy for us, Andrew. I was born and raised a cat person. My dad's nickname was literally Catman. I had a couple dogs as a young boy. and they were both mutts. As you know, back in the 70s, practically everyone had mutts. Only the uber wealthy had pure breeds, right? But in this day and age, script's a little bit different. And I have a 19-year-old daughter. I have a 15-year-old son. And my daughter, for her 14th birthday, said, "Dad, I want a dog." And I kept saying, "No, you're not going to get a dog." She goes, "No, I really want a dog." I said, "You're not getting a dog because I don't want to take care of a dog." And she said, "I promise to take care of it." I said, "You're lying to me." And I said, "I know you're lying." I said, "And you don't mean to lie to me, but you are, because you really want this dog." So eventually I caved in because my wife said she wanted a dog. And silly me, I thought my wife would help me with the dog. So that did not happen. And so we got a Labradoodle because we needed something that was allergy friendly.
Yeah.
And boy, talk about expensive. We did some shopping. We found a family that had a litter of puppies that they were not breeders. And it was actually their home pet that had a litter, and they were selling them. So one, it came from a non-abusive home, and two, it was much less expensive. So double win for the Shelah family. And big surprise, I am, it's human. I'm Sasha's human, and she follows me everywhere. My daughter really hates that. I said, "Well, perhaps if you walked her and fed her and took care of her, she'd like you." But about a year ago, right when the pandemic hit, we decided to adopt, because there's a great place in Colombia called Canine Humane that they rescue dogs from all over the country that are just in awful circumstances. And we rescued Bruno the Rescue Doodle. If you go on Instagram, he has his own Instagram page.
Oh, I love it.
But he's a sensation. You know, when we got him, he was 30 pounds underweight.
Ugh.
He had a huge abscess on his leg. He was running a fever. They had just, abused him to no end. But if you go check out his page, the very happy ending. He is now a happy, chubby pup. He weighs 65 pounds. He's full strength, runs like an elk, dumb as a stump, but we love him. So
that's a great description right there. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
So we've been converted. We're a dog family too. And Alison can certainly share her love and passion for dogs and mutts, because you have a couple of those as well.
One
so
is
great.
sleeping very quietly next to me, and I will not move the phone for fear of waking her and causing a ruckus.
So I love the human piece, Andrew, because when you talk about business, management consulting, that's not something you can pick up and hand to somebody, right? It's intangible. So when you work with a client, Alison and I talk about this all the time, you can't pick up what we do and touch it and feel it and see it. The client has to look you in the eye and say, "I trust this person. I believe that they can help me accomplish my goals." So give us a little bit of about Shift, about the management consulting piece, because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, we started this company. We're in our 20th year now. The folks doing—
Congratulations, 20 years. Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Just in November, big accomplishment. And the folks that power our organization have been doing this collectively much, much longer. But we started with this notion, this just understanding of why is it that some people and some organizations can consistently perform at high levels and others really struggle. You see organizations and leaders send their people to day-long trainings, week-long trainings, onboarding. The people read, just Google management consulting or Google management books, and there's hundreds of thousands of things that people can read. So there's no shortage of information. Yet at the same time, leaders and individuals and organizations continue to struggle to translate talent and potential into performance. And so we're wondering, why is that? And so much of what we do is really rooted in psychology. It's understanding the way that people are wired, how people think, why they do the things that they do. And by understanding that, you then can get these breadcrumbs and these clues to understanding how to actually shift the way people think, shift the way they behave, and ultimately really elevate engagement and performance in the workplace. And so that's really who we are. We study organizational performance. We study human performance. We understand the way that people think and they operate. And if you can help leaders create some real clarity around the vision, the purpose, the values, the strategy of the company, and mobilize, an entire workforce connected to that, the vision, the mission, the values, the strategy, the structure, amazing things happen. And we've been truly helping companies grow regardless, which is also the name of our first book that we wrote, Grow Regardless, for 20 years. And it's a blast. It's an absolute blast.
Yeah, I love what you said there, Andrew. Again, book nerd. There's this book called The One Thing, and I forget the name of the author, but I'll make sure I put it in the show notes. And I have a physical copy of it as well as the audiobook. And in the audiobook version, he has a little preamp in it that he reads to the audience. And he talks about, in 2020, we have greater access to knowledge than we ever have in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, people were like, well, that's what we're missing, right? We need access to knowledge. If we have access to knowledge, then we can become a better society, and we can become better people. We can become better professionals, and a better husband or a better wife or a better son or a better daughter or a better father, or better mother. But it's not that simple, right? And what you just keyed in on is it's less about the knowledge, which is important. The knowledge is absolutely important. It's, well, what do I do with this knowledge? How do I execute it? So, would love to just hear a little bit of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's the execution part is a large, we've been studying organizational transformation for a while, and pick your research, ours or anybody else's, and it all points to the same thing. 70% of massive change initiatives, business transformation efforts, they fail. And it's not that they don't happen, they do, but what they fail in is delivering the intended business results. And part of this is, it falls into a few things. One is, I'd say the why is not clear, the purpose. And so, because of the timing
Find
of
your why, show notes.
Yeah, the why here, because of the time of year, I'll just use this connection. January 1st, everywhere in the world, but especially in the US, people set New Year's resolutions, right? It's kind of like this weird thing that's, it's a ritual that started, I don't even know when. And it's always interested me, because it's like, why do we wait until January 1st to say, we're going to turn over a new leaf, a new behavior? But, people, the top 2 New Year's resolutions that people set are, doing something with their weight and quitting smoking. Every year, those are like, they wrestle for number 1 and 2. And you think about, because I used to work in the health club industry years and years and years ago, and it was always a little bit of a joke, that when, because the current members would place bets when they would see new members coming in, they'd look around, they go, oh, that person's not going to make it past February 1st. We'll never see that person again past when they join. It's like, and the stats played out that way. Back in 1996, I think, which was about when I got out of the industry, there were 22 million health club members and 29 million former health club members. What's my point? My point is, we're really good at starting something and then quitting. And it's largely because we're not connected to why that thing is so important. And so with leaders in business, it's the same thing. There's a new initiative, a new project, a new strategy, a new thing. And then along the way, leaders lose resolve. They lose focus. The initiative loses the executive sponsorship that it needs to really drive it through to successful fruition. And what that creates is, with that lack of focus, there's a lack of alignment in the organization. And so you've got people all across the company who are focused on different things. And when that happens, you get organizational drag, lack of engagement, and diminished performance. That's what's going on.
I have 2 comments. One, as a very avid gym goer, those 6 weeks, man, at the beginning of the year, I'm just like, can you just hurry up and give me my space back? And it's terrible, because I also want to high five everyone for the initiative to show up. And then I just want to whisper, oh, by the way, it only works if you keep doing this for the whole year, all the time. And I'm also a huge advocate of, why wait until Monday or January 1st? Start right now.
Right. Do it now.
All those things, and do it in an incremental way so that it's sustainable, right? You can't change your whole life overnight, nor is that manageable or remotely realistic. So that's one thing. And the other is, I was just curious, are any of your executives, leaders, trainers in psychology, or have that kind of background? I was curious more on that piece, because you said it's rooted in psychology.
Yeah,
how you implement that.
Some do from an academic background. Some do have their background, their collegiate background, academic background in psychology. Others, what they do or what they've done is they've gotten professional certifications, schooling, credentialing in executive coaching and leadership. So there's a variety of ways that our people have gotten the experience they have. Some is formal, and a lot of it is informal, on the job. Just really, we study this stuff every day. So it's a bit of both. If I can comment, Alison, on one part of what you said around the back to the gym piece. Part of the reason that people do drop out, and it's the same thing in business, why they fail, the initiatives fail, is misset or misaligned expectations. So back to the health club analogy, it's like, people go in and they join and they come and they work out for their first time. And for folks who haven't exercised in a while, when they first work out, it's not the day after that's an issue, it's 2 days after. And they get really sore, really stiff. And people go, ow, this freaking hurts. I don't like this. It's uncomfortable. I'm in pain. I've got to give up time. By the way, when I go to the gym, I feel stupid because I don't know what I'm doing and everybody else around me does. And so people expect that after 2 or 3 workouts, they're like, why don't I look any better? Why don't my clothes fit any better? Why am I not stronger? And it just, it takes a good 6 to 8 weeks of working out at least 3 days a week to see some kind of measurable change. And especially today, we're in such this instant gratification mindset that people expect it's going to happen like that. And in business, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, we're going to roll out this new technology initiative, or we're going to design this new strategy, or we're going to launch a new product, or we're going to change our comp plan. And it's many leaders think, well, I can just send an email out, or I can just tell somebody once and they've got it and we're there. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's not how it works.
I love that. Brilliant. So, Andrew, I've got 2 more questions for you, and then I'm going to let Alison take the reins for a little while. So question number 1 has 2 parts. Who is your customer from an industry standpoint, from a size standpoint, and from a geography standpoint? So who is your customer? And then second, let the world know the best way to get in hold of you. Do we use website? Do we use email, social media, all of the above? So just who's your customer, and then walk us through the best way to contact you. And then Alison's going to get into the book stuff.
Yep. The customer standpoint is more about what that person believes, the leader believes. So the first thing I'll say is, where we start is often at the ownership level. So CEO, COO, SVPs or EVPs are usually people who are charged with the creation of or the ultimate execution of a strategy. Size of business doesn't really matter because we work with startups all the way up to, we've worked with Fortune 10 companies and everything in between.
All right.
So we've got good range there. And from a vertical standpoint, we've worked across virtually every vertical there is. So we work in, finance, tech, media. We've worked in landscaping. We've worked with construction companies. It really doesn't matter. Manufacturing, aerospace, automotive, it truly doesn't matter because what we do, every organization needs, which is how do you mobilize the company to be able to better execute on their strategies in a way that creates compelling client experiences, engages employees, and really produces great returns for all involved. So it's more about who the leader is and what they believe in. So there are plenty of companies, Mike, that need what we do, but frankly, they don't value the same things that we do.
Amen, brother.
It's like this. It's like, we've had prospective customers who reach out to us and they say, oh, we really want your help. And as we get into conversations, they say things like this. Man, I really get what you guys are saying around the employee experience and how important it is. But, if I hear one more person tell me that my employees are customers, I'm going to puke. And at that point, I'm hitting the eject button because that's somebody who doesn't value what we do. Yeah. What we know is that when you create really winning experiences for your employees, when you treat your employees like your clients, when you really do everything you can to create this winning, engaging environment, your people will give you extra discretionary effort. They will pour their heart, soul, and passion into their work, as opposed to doing it because it's a punitive environment, because it's a command and control environment, because they're treated like, a widget, or they're very replaceable. If you don't do it, somebody else will. It's like, those are not our customers, brother. That's not who we are at all.
Yeah, Andrew, I think you just generated a great bingo moment. You were brutally honest about something that people don't like to talk about. In fact, from a sales standpoint, most of your sales trainers tell you, you got to have an industry, you got to have a niche, you got to be known as the company for medical or legal. And a lot of customers will push back and say, that's nice, but we're different. And the answer is no, actually, you're not. You may do one or two things differently than 95% of companies out there, and I don't disagree with that. But for the most part, your company, whether you're 5 people or 5,000, operates the same way. It's just to scale. Now, as companies get bigger, things get more sophisticated. I'll completely agree with that. But yeah, so kudos to you for putting a big stamp on that. That there's this intellectual bias in the world that, well, I only want to do business with a company that has only worked with 30 other companies in my industry. That's just it's foolish. And you're cutting yourself off from real quality business relationships as well. So yeah,
True.
Tell us, how do people get a hold of Andrew and how do they work with Shift?
The easiest place to find us is going right to our website, which is www.shiftthework.com, shiftthework.com. We've got a good presence on social, we're Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We've got very active sites. We love using social as a way to share our thought leadership, to curate content, to connect people. So that's a really easy way to find us. For me, personally, on all those same platforms, I'm easy to find. It's A. Freedman Thrive, which is, Thrive being the name of the book that that we're talking about also. And that's easy on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, same kind of thing. So easy to connect with and love engaging with people who care about these same kinds of things that we do.
Wonderful. So as I like to say, you are very Googleable, and Shift is very Googleable. Awesome.
Yes, put us in your electric Googler and you'll be able to find us.
Perfect.
Alison, take it away. I can't wait to hear the book stuff. This is good.
Yeah, thank you. Secretly and not even secretly, I just want to talk about the gym part, but we won't do that here.
That'll be the next segment. Yeah.
Another time.
That'll be the next segment. So, yes, I am also an author, so I have a special appreciation for the task at hand, right? And the commitment and the resilience and the persistence. And I wanted to clarify first, is this your book? Because I heard you say we published a book early. So is this Shift's book, your book? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is it's me. It's my book, and I have a co-author with me, somebody who collaborated on this. His name is Paul Elliott, long-term colleague and friend, over 40 years in doing what we do. Also has like an industrial, engineering and psychology background, and so this was a hoot because it's really doing what we've done for so long and bringing it to life in a book. And when I say we collectively, Shift has produced 2 other books, Grow Regardless and Shift the Work. And Joe McClinsky, our CEO, was the author of each of those.
Fantastic. So how long was this idea in the making, and then what brought it to execution and fruition?
Ooh, this was, and I'm not sure if your journey was similar or same. This has been kicking around for me for the better part of 7 or 8 years. As I've done all this work, I just, I couldn't, I've had this stirring inside me that I need to get this information out. And it's not, anything other than I've had the blessing truly of having access to so many experiences and working with so many companies and so many leaders who experience similar challenges. And I know that there are so many people, probably millions across, this country and even more across the world, who struggle with the same things that other leaders struggle with. And so I wanted to give people access to the experience that I've had, that we've had, in a way that they would be able to take purposeful action. So it's been stirring for a while, and I'll give you just a little bit of a short story. The real writing has happened over the past 2.5 years. And 2019 was not a good year for me with the book, because 2018 we did the first pass. Paul and I, me doing a lot of the writing, Paul, bringing some of the experience and examples. And in 2019, Alison, I could not pick up the book. We had a first draft, and every time I picked it up and I looked at it, I was like, ugh, I hate this. It's not what I want. It doesn't speak to who I am. Not enough of me is coming out of it. And my wife and I took a trip to see her mom, who was living in the Philippines last December of 2019. And I said to myself, all right, listen, doofus, you got a 22-hour flight each way, and you're going to be in the Philippines for 2 weeks. Make this the book that you want. And that was really the tipping point for me. I used that time, completely recreated the book, rewrote it, really start to finish outside of the examples. And it became this thing that was like, it was a representation of who I am, what I believe. And I couldn't be more proud of what we're releasing to the world now.
That's so cool. And I love the differences and the similarities, right? Like, I've always been a writer. I've been gifted with the ability to speak and articulate in a way that people connect. My book is personal. Well, yours is too. Of course, you wrote it, but I mean, it's my actual story, right? And my story with recovery and my journey on this short time that I've been on Earth. And it was one of those things that I had just like this seed in the back of my mind forever, right? 10 years.
Yeah.
But it was then the other seed, the louder voice was, well, who do you think you are, right? Like, who are you to write the book? Which is, I think, a common human reaction to doing something big and scary. And then more and more authors would pop up into my life, people that I knew. And I'm like, well, you're not that special. And not undermining them, but just like relating as a human to human, right? Like, you're not any different than I am. And someone interviewed me for their book, and he's like, you need to write this. And he's like, I can help you. I was like, my ego's like, yeah, no, back off. I got it. Thanks. So I started typing, and it poured out of me. And I actually wrote my whole book in less than a year. And
Wow.
I'm really grateful that someone suggested that I not like type and reread, because I would never finish if I kept going back. And then I hired an editor, because I did not want to, I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know what I'm doing, but I didn't want to be tasked with that. And he pulled more out of me and formatted it. And that part was great. So tell us, that's an amazing story about the Philippines. And I respect too, your honesty, right? We had it done, and then it wasn't. And then, you had the initiative to do it, and the self-discipline. So after the Philippines, then what?
After the Philippines, came back, and I there's probably like you, there are a number of people that I trust in my life, but there's a really small circle of people that, I trust enough that I wanted to share this with. And I asked them
Circle
to
of
be
influence.
absolutely brutal and, rip it up, so I divided it up into chapters, shared it with about 6 or 7 people, and they really helped me make it even better. So refinement. And then we used an outside service to help us with editing, to really make sure that the book grammatically, punctuation wise, the way it was formatted. We enrolled the help of some designers, because one of the cool things about the book, it's not academic. It really is a leader's guide. Any leader can pick this up and use the case stories, the examples, to take action and put these things into play. But more than that, we had our designer actually outline 25 accelerators, is what we're calling them. And accelerators are downloadable tools, templates, actual examples of artifacts that we've used. So, Mike, you alluded to this earlier. So many times, when people are working with management consulting companies or any service-based company, they get advice, but then they're not sure what to do with the advice. Yep. This book is intended to be a practical, user-friendly guide. So these accelerators, people can actually download them and go, oh, I need to create a new vision. Here's how I do that. Oh, I need to hire better. Here's 25 great interview questions. Oh, I need to assess the talent in my organization. Here's a framework to do that. And so that's what we've been doing for the past number of months, is really bringing those things
and tactical. Love it.
Yeah, gotta be. I mean, there's so many books out there that people read and they love, and then they sit on bookshelves and they go, oh, what was that book that I read? There was that one quote or that one thing. We want this, and it's intended to be so user-friendly, so tactical and practical that people can read it and go, great, now I'm going to go do this thing, and it's going to help this part of my business. Got to be that way.
Brilliant. And I just, I can feel the energy and obviously the passion and genuinely wanting to help others, right? At an individual level, but then the organizational level. And that's how this works. And Mike and I talk about it all the time with our guests, and being part of a team and being a true leader is being able to shoulder it, right? And lead by example and genuinely care. And I can't wait to read it. And I personally, part of my prospecting method is mailing books to people, right? And I I can't wait to read it and then put it into my round of spam sometimes, as it's seen. But I am sincere when I'm sending it, right? But that's also how I learn who's interested and who's not. But yeah, that's great. Congratulations, Andrew. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Andrew, give us the title of the book again and the published date.
Yes.
All the nuts and bolts around this beautiful book you've written.
Yeah, for sure. The book is Thrive, The Leader's Guide to Building a High-Performance Culture. It hits Amazon on January 26th, 2021. It will be available on that date for purchase, hardback, paperback, and e-version, depending on how people want to consume their content. And we are psyched about what we're about to unleash. And I'm personally psyched about what I'm going to unleash on the world.
Very nice. Well, to our audience, I will have all of Andrew's contact information available in the show notes. We can't put a link to Amazon yet because they're not doing a pre-order, but I assure you that when that thing hits on the 26th of January, it will be all over social media, not only courtesy of Andrew and his people, but courtesy of myself and Alison. Andrew, you have been a phenomenal guest.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Well, it's easy when you've got great organic dialogue, and you both really spurred that. So thank you for having me. I appreciate the conversation, and I look forward to continuing our discussions on and offline.
Yes, thank you very much, Andrew. Have a great
Happy holidays.
You too.
Bye-bye. So what a fantastic guest.
Yeah, that was fun. I love this morning coffee talk podcast stuff we got going on. I'm not going to lie. That was good.
Yeah, maybe we need to change the name of the show. I don't know.
Double fisting at Starbucks.
But so here's my first takeaway. That Andrew has very obviously put time and attention into his ability to present. And I was going to touch on this a little bit today anyway, and he's just reinforcing it. I was a member of Toastmasters for several years.
Right.
And if for our listening audience, if you've never heard of Toastmasters or you've never been to a Toastmasters meeting, fix that like immediately. You can visit any group, and because it's COVID, you'll be virtually visiting, but you can visit any group. And if you go to the Toastmasters website, you put in your zip code, it'll show you every club within like a 20-mile radius of your zip code. And they will tell you that they're first and foremost a leadership development company, because I was the president of my club for a while, and I was the secretary of my club. And there's several roles that you can fulfill to develop your leadership skills. Equally importantly, really why they were started, is to help people understand how to effectively speak, how to confidently speak. Most people will be very candid and tell you that they are terrified of speaking in front of an audience. Alison and I just booked a new guest earlier this week, and she sent us an email and said, I'm a little scared. We said, don't be, you're going to be great.
Yep.
But for many people, that is a real concern. And when I went to Toastmasters for the first time, I felt like I was an accomplished speaker. And what they really gave me was polishing and refinement. And it taught me so many of the things that I use on a daily basis. For example, you all just went, what, did something happen to the audio? Because there were 3 seconds that I wasn't speaking. And one of the first things they teach you is you've got to be comfortable with silence. And so many salespeople and so many business leaders, you can increase your perceived knowledge and experience just by being able to speak more effectively. I have a good friend. I worked with him many years ago. Loved the guy to death. He could not get through a conversation without saying the bottom line. Couldn't do it. And we all have these crutch words. Many people, they'll hear they'll hear so, like, you know. at really inopportune moments. But we have these crutch words, these crutch phrases. The bottom line, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Now, grammatically, at times, these phrases are appropriate, right?
I think that's one of my crutch words, right? But anyway, listen.
But again, if you're using it grammatically,
right,
that's fine. But when people insert it because they don't know what else to say at that moment, be comfortable with the silence. Enjoy the silence, to quote Depeche Mode, is what I say. So
and take enough of a breath to really think about what you're going to say. My direct manager is brilliant at that and encouraging me to do that, because I've never been accused of speaking too slowly, right? In fact, I'm usually asked if I'm from New York and military. I'm not sure how the two combine, but we're going to just leave that alone, because I don't know if I'm uncomfortable being quiet, or and part of it is my personality. I really want to do a great job. And sometimes I feel that continuing speaking shows that, when in reality, like I'm doing right now, is I'm pausing, which is ironic. I'm not doing it on purpose, to think about what I want to say. And if I give my brain a chance to catch up to my damn mouth,
just a moment, right?
Just a moment, I will have a few more words available and at my disposal, so that I don't use those fillers. Those fillers, I can pick that up in a second, and then all I can do is count them. So half the time I can't even listen to someone talking, because is that is, I can't. And like so, and and it just, so yeah, I appreciate this very much, and just slowing down a little bit so that you can hear yourself speaking and maybe reframe what you're about to say. Because I'm also my direct manager, again, giving her lots of props this morning. Oh God, I just said it. Being able to use positive language, even if it's a negative thing that you need to say, right? Yeah. Never saying never, can't, won't, have to, and giving yourself time to refabricate your sentence and use language that just changes it enough so that it's heard and received in a way that is positive.
Yeah, I don't think anybody listening to the podcast will be surprised to learn that I was born and raised in New York. My dad yes. grew up in Brooklyn. I still have an aunt that lives there.
Brilliant.
People will say to me, "You don't sound like you're from New York," and I can quickly turn it on. I quickly sound like Joe Pesci from My Cousin Vinny. It's really not that hard.
Beautiful.
I have an aunt that lives in Wilmington, North Carolina. She's lived there since 1970, I think, 69 or 70. And she's my dad's sister, so they grew up in Brooklyn. My aunt still sounds like she lives in Brooklyn, which is hysterical, because both of my cousins have the heaviest Southern drawl, and they're like, "That's your mother?"
I love that. I have distant cousin. My mom's Italian, and so they were right off the boat, and they're in New York. And then my dad's sister also lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, but Southern through and through. Yeah. No New York there.
But the language thing is so important. And a few years back, I was working for this company that, to their credit, they tried very hard to train their salespeople, and not just product knowledge, but they went out of their way to teach us other sales skills. They sent me to a class for 3 days to teach me whiteboarding, which if you have not ever done whiteboarding in a sales presentation, just Google it. There's 100 books written on the topic, and it is a phenomenal way to convey your message when selling. And I love that. And they also sent me away to a 2-day workshop on public speaking. And I was in a room with about a dozen other sales reps. And I knew that I was probably a better speaker. I was astounded at how poor the rest of my colleagues were at it. And that they made minimal progress in the couple days that we were there. Just as you pointed out a couple minutes ago, once you've been told, don't say you immediately become much more aware of it. And as a result, you tend to be better at it.
And horrified at how often you say
And
certain
horrified
things.
whenever I listen to the radio or watch a television broadcast, I think to myself, you need to get yourself a coach for public speaking, or you need to go to a Toastmasters meeting, because it's embarrassing. You're on a national platform and you're not hitting the fundamentals. And we all have moments that's different, but I consistently hear it on national public broadcast. So for our listening audience today, that's a big takeaway. I love that about Andrew, that he didn't seem rehearsed, but he knew, he had the confidence to execute and say what he wanted to say. And boy, what a phenomenal book it sounds like, right?
I am genuinely excited to read it. It sounds really cool.
And it keys in so well with the subjects that you and I have touched on week after week after week, is having that internal reflection. If you're the leader of a business, you have to be able to say, where are my blind spots? What am I missing? Who can help me get better, get to the next level? And that doesn't mean that you suddenly become a better person. As I said last week, Alison and I are beautifully flawed. We're still making our way through the universe with one hand tied behind our back and one eye blindfolded. We are not leading the charge by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to be able to understand that about yourself. I've always jokingly said, I know where my place is on the societal totem pole. And just because I'm towards the bottom, there's nothing wrong with that, because you want to aspire to move up. But you have to be able to honestly say that about where you are in life.
Right.
What are your deficits? What are your challenges? So what did you take away from Andrew's conversation? Because I loved it.
Well, and before that, just what you're saying, what is coming to mind, and what I love to envision when I have a conversation with someone is that I am one of, right? So wherever on the totem pole, we're all on the totem pole somewhere. And at the end of the day, I am one of. So for me as a salesperson, especially when I'm presenting or I want to talk to someone that I perceive as way more important than I am, way better than I am, I have to be reminded at the end of the day, this is still another human that is doing the best they can with what they have. And when I can remember that I am as valuable in what I do as what they are, what they do, I can calm my nerves and speak more intelligibly, instead of, like, I know when I first started my career here, I was scared to talk to these important leaders, right? Because my target is the C-suite as well, right? And some of these companies are really daunting. And I think, oh God, and then I can have analysis paralysis and the phone gets real heavy really fast. But when I think that I have something of value and I am as worthy as anyone of a conversation, it helps with my nerves. So a lot of what Andrew spoke to is what we believe in anyway, and what we're trying to do with organizations from an HR perspective. And that is also how I'm treated in a corporation, that I feel like I matter, which then makes me try harder. I feel safe in that if I do mess up, I'm not going to be booted out by the next person, right? I believe that if I do give my best effort, I will be noticed and rewarded and supported. And I have people that genuinely want to help me. And because I have an organization that I'm surrounded with people all trying to be better, and if you're not, you don't last very long. I do genuinely want to work harder. I really do, even from home, right? In the middle of COVID. And last year when I had my broken leg, I was sitting at the table and had my casted leg up, and I was doing my work. And not once did I ever think of milking my time and taking more time off than I needed, which I was entitled to. And it's all because of that intrinsic motivation, because of how I was supported. Granted, I make plenty of money and all those things matter too, but how I'm made to feel as a valuable part of an organization is also what I believe works in my life, and how I want other leaders to value their employees. And I also agree with him about hitting the eject button. right? Not everyone is a good fit. And I
Not
think
a hell yes, it's a hell no.
right. And I think too, and I've certainly closed deals that made my insides black, right? Like it was a tedious, difficult process. I needed the deal for whatever, right? But I think of it and I hope that I'm able to grow in a way where I trust that the right people are coming from my efforts. I will be rewarded in time. So I don't need that person because it's making both of our lives worse.
Yeah.
Like
And we don't
maybe
always
it's not
know
a
that in
fit.
the moment that it's a bad deal,
Right.
right? So, I mean,
Correct.
sometimes we do, but we
Yep.
don't always know that.
Yep.
And Andrew, I'm going to give him credit for helping me give birth to something that's going to come into my daily lexicon now, practical and tactical.
I love that as well.
Yeah, I just that's great. So there's two sides to every piece of information has two sides of it. Neither one's the right one. It's which one do you align with? But I love practical and tactical, and there are 1,000 books written on every subject at least. Yeah.
Yep.
But that doesn't invalidate the other 999 books.
Right.
Because each one's going to give you a subtle nuance, a subtle difference. They're going to have that one thing that wasn't in the last book. And I told you, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, the Same New World book by Ruby Wax. Did that book put me on a trajectory, on a path, a light bulb moment that made me say, this is what I want to work on for me. And again, when somebody is willing to admit, hey, I was literally crazy. I was committed to an asylum and I have bipolar and I am depressed and I want to figure out why these things are happening. She was able to step outside of herself, get herself into Oxford University, and analytically look at what was going on with her life. And you and I talk about this all the time, that we look at the world through a filter and we lack the ability to step outside of ourselves and objectively say what's going on.
Yeah. 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 And I love that too, the reminder that this book is great and so are others, right? And
Yep.
every author has a voice and a tone that you will relate to better than another, right? Like me personally, I'm very crass, I'm off the cuff, I curse just a little, and some people couldn't read that and don't want to read that. I think it's for everyone, but it's not up to me. It's up to the reader, and just being able to know that there's a voice and a tone for everyone. I think that's huge. And picking up the other books, and you don't have to agree from page 1 to 99, but there are going to be nuggets. And I love actual books. I appreciate the e-readers out there, but
I love actual books too. Yeah,
yeah,
me too.
because I like a pen in hand or pencil to underline, take notes, star, so that if I don't want to reread the whole thing, I can reread my nuggets. But also what's interesting about that, when I do reread, sometimes wherever I am in that day, I'm going to pick something else up and be like, why did I underline that before? That makes no sense. Or underlining it again, or underlining something new that I haven't that hasn't jumped out yet. So I agree with that statement.
And you just brought up a subject that I had thought about discussing today, because it's very relevant to how salespeople go about their business. Alison and I are fellow vulgarians. We are very fond of vulgar, insulting, graphic words. But you'll notice that they really don't creep into the show, because this is not the platform. Now, Alison and I have also jokingly said, we should do a podcast that's just us ripping, which would be a lot of fun for different reasons. And I've heard plenty of sales training professionals notate that if a customer uses profanity in front of you, that's permission for you to use it. And I staunchly disagree. Where that permission comes from is the relationship.
Yes.
So if you've known somebody for a period of time and you have that relationship with them, then you can do things like that. Because no one listening to this podcast never uses a foul word. It's more about What are the pockets of their life that they deem they are appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is so transferable to being a sales professional, to even being a business leader. The old phrase, there's a time and a place for everything.
Yeah.
Now, depending on what your social circles are, what your job is, what your role is, how you engage with other people that are your friends, your family, your colleagues, your coworker, will dictate when those things are. And we all have that one friend that just seems to not know when. Like, Bill, stop. What are you doing, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Stop
Alison,
talking.
parting thoughts today on another awesome episode.
I think we need to do a ripping and roaring show, Mike. No, I'm so inspired every time we speak to someone because there are so many similarities, yet there's something different about each and every person, which just makes this connection so important, right? People helping people, it's powerful stuff. That's how we close each show. And I think it's so true. And I hope that people are following along and continuing to listen because you're going to pull something different. But then at the end, we're building this web of similarities, right? And connection. Because we're people, right? We're all people, and we learn from one another's experiences. They've got 20 years, right? So I just think it's great, and I love starting my morning this way. Thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Freedman was a tremendous guest, and Shift, I now know way more about them than I did before. His partner Joe originally was our road in. We had asked Joe about being on the show, and he said, you know what? I want you to talk to my partner, Andrew, because he's got this great new book coming out. And we're like, perfect. And so that's, it's a little different take, a little different texture. You think about the people that have been on the show before this, we've had a clothier, we've had realtors, and we've had recruiters, and we've had technology people, so many different audiences. But yeah, there's that foundation of what it takes to be a business leader, to be a successful business leader, to thrive, to grow a team, to build a team, all the pieces that go into it. So ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you have enjoyed this episode of Mike and Alison After Hours. And we are so incredibly grateful for your time, your effort, and your energy. And just remember, people helping people, it's powerful stuff.
Have a great day.
Thank you for joining Mike and Alison After Hours. Tune in next time for another great business owner sharing valuable industry ideas. Want to be a guest on our show? Contact us at answers@getadvantage.com.